I found my wife cheating. With my brother. No one believed me until it was too late. I woke up that morning thinking it would be just another Thanksgiving. I was wrong. By the time dinner rolled around, my wife and my brother had already rewritten reality, and everyone believed their version. They said I was the problem. Cold, controlling, difficult. I wasn't. And then I saw it. A single message on her phone. One sentence that ripped my chest apart. I miss you already. It wasn't from a stranger. It wasn't some coworker. It was him. My brother. And that's when I realized something terrifying. The people I trusted the most were writing a story where I was the villain, while I was still the only one who knew the truth. By the end of that day, Thanksgiving wasn't ruined. It was weaponized, and I had a choice: fight, beg, or watch, and outplay them. 3 weeks earlier, nothing seemed off. She was careful. Not distant, not cold, just careful. Her phone never left her hand, but she angled it away. She said she was running errands and came back showered, freshly dressed. I asked if something was wrong. She hugged me tight. "You're my safe place," she whispered. I wanted that to be true. But one night, my phone died, and I grabbed hers to make a call. That's when I saw a message from a contact saved as E. I miss you already. My chest tightened. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe some harmless emotional affair. Something I could forgive. Then I opened the conversation. Photos in our living room. Inside jokes. And then, the one that shattered everything. My brother's tattooed wrist on her thigh. Everything I believed about my life, my trust, my family, it all collapsed in one instant. I confronted her, calm, cold. She didn't scream. She didn't deny it. She smiled. "Well, I don't have to deal with you anymore." She'd been cheating for over a year. She didn't ask me to stay. She spoke about the future as if I no longer existed. I left that night with a duffel bag, silent, watching, documenting. By the next Thanksgiving, my family thought everything was normal. Everyone expected me to stay silent, to play along. But I wasn't silent, because I had evidence. Messages, photos, videos, every lie laid bare. And when I revealed it, no one could undo it. I walked into the house that Thanksgiving morning carrying nothing but a duffel bag and a quiet determination. Everyone was there. My parents, cousins, extended family, all smiling, laughing, oblivious to what I knew. My wife and my brother were sitting together, pretending nothing had happened, confident that everyone believed their story, that I was cold, unreasonable, overreacting. I didn't say a word at first. I just set my bag down, pulled out my phone, and connected it to the TV. Conversations paused. Laughter stopped. Forks hovered midair. The screen lit up with evidence. Messages, photos, dates, videos, inside jokes I had never shared with anyone else. My brother's voice. My wife's laugh. Every single lie exposed. My mother covered her mouth. My father didn't look at anyone. My brother tried to speak and failed. My wife slid from her chair and hit the floor. I stood silently, letting the screen tell the story. No explanation. No justification. No begging for understanding. Just truth, brutal, clear, irrefutable. The room was frozen. Shock, disbelief, guilt, and anger all tangled together. I didn't wait for anyone to react. I grabbed my bag and walked out. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from my wife. "I can't believe you do this." I didn't respond, because in that moment I realized the divorce, the house, even the relationship, it all became secondary. The real victory was control over the narrative. By the next morning, whispers were spreading. Everyone who had believed her story was starting to question it. And then, my brother sent a text that made my blood run cold. "You think this is over? You have no idea what I'm capable of." The morning after Thanksgiving felt like walking through a war zone. Texts, calls, messages from family, friends, even distant relatives. Everyone had seen the evidence. Everyone had an opinion, but no one called to ask how I was doing. They just wanted drama, gossip, closure for themselves. My parents didn't speak to me directly. My mother avoided eye contact, scrolling her phone nervously. My father paced the living room, muttering under his breath. My brother sent a series of aggressive texts. "You went too far. This isn't over. Everyone will hate you for this." I let them stew, calm, silent. Because for the first time in months, I had clarity. The divorce was brutal but clean. The prenup held, so the house went to me. I sold it. My wife moved in with my brother thinking they'd won. They thought they'd rewritten history. But she didn't anticipate something I had spent months preparing. The truth always has a way of catching up. Within 3 months, my wife and my brother's new life began to crumble. My brother, apparently shocked that someone capable of betrayal might betray him too, walked away. She realized too late that I wasn't just passive, I was meticulous. I had documented everything, anticipated every move, and ensured the fallout was contained to me surviving. While they fell apart, friends and extended family stopped supporting them publicly. The narrative had flipped. Everyone knew the real story now, and it wasn't flattering. I moved, started therapy, rebuilt myself quietly, learned to exist in the calm that comes after chaos. And the strangest thing? After all of that, I met someone new. Someone who didn't flinch at my questions. Who didn't treat transparency like a burden. Who simply listened. For the first time in over a year, I felt safe. But even as I rebuilt my life, I kept one truth in mind. Family betrayal never disappears. It waits quietly. One day, I got a text that reminded me exactly why. "We're not done yet." After Thanksgiving, I didn't contact my wife or my brother. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just watched. I installed cameras in the house I still legally owned. I documented every interaction, every lie. My brother walked in like he belonged there. My wife laughed the way she used to with me. Every day, I forced myself to see what I already knew was happening. It wasn't the sex that hurt the most. It was the ease of it all. The comfort they had in their deception. Every smile, every joke, it was a reminder that I'd been erased from their story. Even worse, I realized my family had been spinning a narrative about me. That I was controlling, cold, emotionally unavailable. Suddenly, every sideways glance, every whispered conversation made sense. I wasn't just hurt, I was being vilified in real time. I could have exploded, confronted them, shattered the facade, but I didn't. I kept quiet, because I knew something they didn't. I was gathering irrefutable evidence. Photos, videos, messages, dates, voices, every lie, every betrayal captured and cataloged. And I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it for justice. Weeks later, my brother sent a casual text. "You really need to stop watching us. It's creepy." I stared at it, smiled, and typed back silently in my head. "I'm not watching. I'm waiting." Thanksgiving came again, and this time I was ready. Everyone expected the usual smiles. The forced niceties, the everything is fine facade. My wife, my brother, my parents, all convinced I would play along. They thought I'd swallowed my pride, that I'd accept their rewritten story. I didn't. I walked in carrying nothing but my phone. No speeches. No yelling. No begging. Just evidence. I connected it to the TV. The room froze. Forks hovered midair. Laughter died mid-sentence. The first slide appeared. Messages, dates, photos, videos, my brother's voice, my wife's laugh. Every lie they'd told, every moment they thought was hidden, it was all there. My mother gasped. My father didn't look at anyone. My brother tried to speak and couldn't finish a sentence. My wife slid off her chair and hit the floor. I stood quietly, letting the proof speak for itself. No explanation. No excuses, no tears. Just the truth. I walked out before anyone could even ask me to explain. The house was silent behind me. Everyone stunned. Everyone realizing the person they vilified, the one they claimed was unstable, was actually the only one who had ever told the truth. That night, I got a text from my brother. "You've ruined everything. You think this is over? It's not." I looked at it and smiled, because I knew the next part of the story wasn't about anger, revenge, or betrayal. It was about watching them unravel themselves. After the Thanksgiving confrontation, the chaos didn't end, but I learned to survive it. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I needed clarity. I needed to understand how to trust myself again, how to separate my feelings from the lies, how to stop carrying the weight of their story. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life. I moved to a new apartment, changed routines, and focused on work and my well-being. Quietly, methodically, I reclaimed the control that had been stolen from me. Then unexpectedly, I met someone new. She didn't flinch when I mentioned my past. She didn't treat honesty like a weapon or transparency as a burden. She listened. She understood. And she trusted. For the first time in over a year, I felt safe. Not because the past had vanished, but because I finally realized I didn't need their approval or validation. I was no longer living in someone else's story. I was writing my own. I started to understand something crucial. Losing my wife and my brother hadn't been the end. It had been the start of reclaiming my life. But even as I rebuilt, a subtle message appeared on my phone one morning. "We're watching. Don't forget who you are." And just like that, I knew the past wasn't done with me yet. The message haunted me. "We're watching. Don't forget who you are." It wasn't just a text. It was a warning. A reminder that my family's capacity for manipulation hadn't disappeared. They were still dangerous, still calculating. Subtle attacks started to appear. Friends I trusted came to me with veiled comments, whispers, hints that my brother and wife were still spreading their story. Casual remarks that seemed innocent, but I knew better. They were probing, testing, trying to unsettle me. I stayed calm, silent, patient. I had the truth on my side, and I knew that reacting in anger would only give them power. But they were persistent. My brother sent another text a week later. "You think you're untouchable?" "We'll see about that." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I watched quietly as their control over others started to fade. Friends and relatives, who had once believed their lies, were now questioning the narrative. The tension shifted slowly, imperceptibly, toward me, but this time I wasn't the one losing. I realized something terrifying, but freeing. Surviving betrayal isn't about winning arguments or proving yourself. It's about remaining unshakable, letting the truth unfold while your enemies panic. Then one night, a voicemail appeared on my phone from my brother. His voice, tense, almost shaking. "You think you've won, but family always comes back." I stared at it, heart racing. And in that moment, I understood the battle wasn't over. It had only changed shape. The threats lingered, but I refused to let them control me anymore. I focused on myself, therapy, journaling, rebuilding routines that reminded me who I was outside of their lies. Quiet mornings, long walks, hours spent reflecting instead of reacting. I learned how to separate my peace from their chaos. I reconnected with people who truly mattered. Friends who had stayed neutral. Coworkers who respected boundaries. Slowly, the noise faded, and I began to feel lighter. My new relationship flourished. She didn't flinch when I brought up my past. She didn't treat honesty as a weapon or transparency as a burden. She listened, understood, and trusted. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Not just physically, but psychologically. I no longer flinched at sudden texts, whispers, or family drama. I had regained my center. And yet the past wasn't completely gone. I learned that family betrayal leaves a shadow. It doesn't vanish. It lurks in subtle comments, in sideways glances, in the knowledge that someone you loved once tried to erase you from their story. One morning, an innocuous-looking email arrived in my inbox. No subject. No sender name. Just a single line. You think you've moved on, but we're not done yet. I read it, and for a split second, I felt that old tension rise in my chest. Then I smiled. Because I knew something they didn't. I had survived. And I was no longer afraid. Year had passed since the betrayal. The divorce was finalized, the house sold, and my life slowly rebuilt. Yet the lessons from that chaos lingered, etched into every decision, every interaction, every relationship I built afterward. I learned that betrayal doesn't always end with confrontation or proof. Sometimes it lingers quietly. In whispers, sideways glances, or even in people you thought were neutral. Trust is fragile, and rebuilding it takes patience, vigilance, and boundaries. I also learned that revenge isn't always about destruction. It can be about surviving while others implode on their own lies. My brother and ex-wife's lives crumbled under the weight of the secrets they thought they had hidden. They underestimated patience, evidence, and quiet resolve, and that was the most satisfying victory of all. Friends and colleagues who had once doubted me now approached cautiously, acknowledging my truth. The narrative had finally flipped. I was no longer the villain. I was the survivor. And yet, the shadow of betrayal never fully disappears. I've received subtle reminders, texts, comments, glimpses of old family dynamics, but now they're powerless to shake me. I've reclaimed my life and my peace. Then one day, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. A simple message from an unknown number. We're still here, always. I stared at it. And in that moment, I realized the past may never leave, but how you respond defines who you are. Years later, I live quietly, peacefully, with someone who trusts me completely. She doesn't flinch at my questions. She doesn't treat honesty like a burden. She listens. She understands. The betrayal, the lies, the family that turned against me, they're part of my past. But I don't carry them like chains anymore. I've learned that the most powerful revenge isn't shouting or tearing others down. It's reclaiming your life quietly and completely. I don't need anyone's validation. I don't need to prove anything. I survived the impossible, and now my life exists on my terms. And the strangest part? Losing my wife and brother felt like the end of my world at the time. But standing here now, it feels like the moment I finally stopped living in a story someone else was writing. I finally trust the quiet. I finally trust myself. The past may always linger in shadows, but it no longer has power over me.